Southwestern Ontario's grasslands are home for parts of every year to some of our most interesting and vulnerable birds. In this short flick, we'll learn about 16 of our most grassland-dependent birds, grouped loosely by family: blackbirds, shorebirds, sparrows, swallows, and a few raptors. There isn't a hard and fast definition for this subset of species, but it generally includes those birds that typically rely on grassland habitat for breeding or feeding or another part of their life cycle. Since in this case habitat is a common element, we'll rely on other clues to ID these species. Bobolinks, eastern meadowlarks, and cowbirds are all in the blackbird family. If you're in the country and find yourself by hayfields and other grassland habitat, you might hear the effervescent gurgling bird song of the bobolink before you see the birds. Watch for birds that rise out of the grass that fly with very flappy wing beats. The adult male in breeding plumage is unmistakable and it has dramatic black and white plumage topped off with a golden yellow cap. Non-breeding males, females, and first-year birds are yellowish-brown with a striped crown. The bobolink is a species at risk in Ontario. You might also hear an eastern meadowlark before you see it. Its song is a sweet 5-note phrase. It will also occasionally utter a harsher zert call. This is another very flappy bird. When it's in flight, the white feathers on the sides of the tail provide a good ID clue. Also key in on the long beak and a bright yellow chest with a bold black V. This is another species at risk in Ontario. The third blackbird that exploits grassland habitat is the brown-headed cowbird. The adult male is in fact a blackbird with a brown head. The female has the same size and shape but sports a dull brown plumage. The bird has a variety of songs and call notes, some of which are unmusical, tinny, screechy, or gurgly. And yes, these birds will sometimes consort with cattle. Killdeers and upland sandpipers are both shorebirds, so it's a little bit counterintuitive to be looking at these birds in grassland settings instead of by water. But they found a niche that works for them. Killdeers are common. They're named for their killdeer call. This bird is a type of plover. The most obvious field mark for identification is the two black bars on the chest. Killdeers nest in a so-called scrape in gravel and famously might do a broken wing display in an attempt to lead suspected predators away from the nest or chicks. The upland sandpiper is another species at risk in Ontario. These largish birds spend much of the time unseen in grassy habitat, but they will also at times perch on fence posts, trees, or even wires. This is perhaps birders' best opportunity to observe them. If you're lucky, you might also hear their comical wolf whistle call. This bird has a bit of a pinhead look, but there isn't really a need to get into the fine points of the bird's field marks. If you're looking at a sandpiper in a grassland setting in southwestern Ontario, there's a 99% chance it's an upland sandpiper. Let's look now at 3 sparrows and a couple of similar birds, horned larks and dickthistles, that exploit our grasslands. The most common of these is the savanna sparrow. From spring through the fall, I'll see or hear this bird every time I'm driving the back roads of Middlesex County. The savanna sparrow looks a lot like the song sparrow that intermediate birders are already familiar with. Both birds have a striped chest with a central dot, but the savanna sparrow has a splash of yellow above each eye, and its song is very buzzy. The vesper sparrow too resembles the song sparrow, but this bird has a white eye ring and white outer tail feathers. It's infrequently seen or heard. The last one I saw, I got on after its complex, tuneful call was picked up by the Merlin app. The grasshopper sparrow is one of my favorites. This bird, a species at risk in Ontario, is a grassland nester. It's named for its vocalization, a tick-tick buzz that is said to sound a bit like a grasshopper. This is a sparrow that has a white eye ring and a flat head with bold stripes on the crown. The clay-colored sparrow is another species that's infrequently seen. Key in on the overall pale plumage and gray nape and a call that is several repeated buzz notes. Horned larks are sparrow-like birds. Watch for them active on open fields or flushing from the gravel roads that you're driving on. These birds have brown backs and are lighter below. You'll notice the yellow face and black mask. And those horns? Sure, watch for them too, but they're just tufts of feathers. No one's going to get gored. The dickcissel is also sparrow-like. I think of them as small-scale meadowlarks, since they have a yellow chest with a black V. Some swallows breed in our grassland areas. The barn swallow's name certainly suggests that it thrives in farm settings. However, this is yet another species at risk in Ontario. In fact, all aerial insectivores, birds that feed on insects while they're on the wing, are struggling, and the old wood barns on which the barn swallows nested are disappearing. All of our swallows are acrobatic flyers, so key in on this bird's orange underparts and the deeply forked tail. Tree swallows can also be seen nesting and feeding in our grasslands. The adult male tree swallow has an iridescent dark blue back and a bright white tummy. The adult female has a dullish brown-blue plumage on its back. A lot of birders are surprised to learn that cliff swallows are easily found in the southwestern Ontario countryside. Many will nest under bridges or even under mini bridges that a driver would barely notice while driving along. But tap your brakes and have a look for square-tailed swallows with obvious cinnamon rumps. Their buff, light forehead patch is more easily seen if the birds are perched. Finally, a quick look at a few grassland raptors. Watch for American kestrels perched on wires along the road. This is a small, pointy-winged falcon. It's easy to ID since it's our most colorful raptor. The northern harrier used to be called a marsh hawk back in the day, but this bird does well flying over grassland fields, hunting for small mammals and other prey. Northern harriers have owl-like disc faces, but the more common field mark for identifying this large raptor is its white rump. Before we wrap, we'll give a little nod to one last grassland species that's unique in many ways. Not only is it an owl, but the short-eared owl is on grassland habitat through the winter months. This is yet another species at risk in Ontario. One of this large raptor's vocalizations is a series of wheezy, bark-like hoots. The key field mark is eyes circled with a whole lot of mascara. So there's a quick little rundown of some really cool birds with a really interesting common theme: grassland habitat. By the way, Birds Canada notes that the birds that depend on grasslands are declining faster than any other bird group in Canada. Since 1970, Canada's grassland bird populations have dropped by 67%. The common cause of this is habitat loss. Keep listening, watching, and advocating for the protection of grasslands. Explore recent sightings in eBird, grab your bins, activate your Merlin app, and get out there.